Alright, so there's this guy. Let's call him Ishmael. Ishmael really wants to do whaling, because I guess he read a book about it or something. So he goes to this town called New Bedford, because he's on his way to Nantucket, which is where the whale ship's at. But everybody else in the entire world probably read the same book that Ishmael did, because all the inns in New Bedford are full. He ends up at this place called the Spouter, which is also full, but it has an unscrupulous landlord who will allow him to share a bed with someone who appears to be a serial murderer. I say he appears to be a serial murderer because when Ishmael asks for some information about this prospective roommate, the landlord is like, oh, he's out selling human heads right now. So Ishmael doesn't feel great about that, but he doesn't have a lot of options. It's like that or sleep on a bench, and fuck benches. So he sleeps in the bed, and this other dude, Queequeg, comes in the middle of the night. So not only does he sell human heads, but he comes back late, gets in the bed, and just starts feeling Ishmael. So naturally they become best friends. Queequeg used to be an African prince, but he gave up on being an African prince because he likes whales too much, or I guess since he's a whale man, maybe really fucking hates whales. I don't know. Either way, they become friends. They go to church together. They hear a really dope retelling of Jonah and the whale that's like all in sea doggy dialect. And then they get on a boat and they start heading to Nantucket. On the boat, Queequeg teaches Ishmael all about cultural relativism. He saves a racist from drowning. He's just like a really great guy, which is why it sucks so much that he's going to fucking die. Spoiler alert. Ishmael tells us this like 400,000 times. By the way, what he's not going to tell you is that it's all his fault. Because the next thing that happens is they're holed up in Nantucket. They're going to get a whale ship. And Queequeg comes up with this idiot fucking idea. See, Queequeg has this idol that he calls Yojo. That's this little wooden idol that he like makes little burnt sacrifices to and asks for advice. He asks it for advice about what whale ship they could pick, and Yojo's like, yo man, you should send Ishmael, the guy who doesn't know anything about whale ships, to pick a whale ship. And Queequeg's like, oh my god, what an amazing idea. So he sends Ishmael out to go pick a boat. Ishmael doesn't know shit about whale boats. He's never done this shit before. So he's out there at the docks and he just picks the sketchiest looking boat he possibly could. It's a boat called the Pequod that has a whale's lower jawbone attached to the front. Like it's just stapled on there, right on the front. And Ishmael, I guess, is like, I don't know, it looks like they killed at least one whale, so it's probably a good whale ship. I don't know. I literally don't know. So he gets on the ship and he asks to join. And they hire him, which should be the first bad sign. They hire him, but they negotiate him down to a very low share in the process. They hustle the shit out of him. But he's like, I can bring you a dope harpooner also. So he goes back and gets Queequeg. He's like, hey, I found us a sketchy boat. Queequeg's like, dope! They try to not hire Queequeg because he's clearly not a Christian, I guess because they're racist. And he's not a Christian. He worships this stupid idol. But Ishmael manages to convince them to pick him by making the argument that everybody's a Christian, which is false. But they buy it, so they hire both of them. But before they can actually take off in the boat, they get accosted by this real sketchy dude, very crazy, named Elijah, who claims to be able to see the future. And he's like, hey guys, what's up? I hear you're going on the Pequod with Ahab. And I hear Ahab's a crazy motherfucker. He lost his leg to a whale, and he's very ill-fated. And if you get on that ship, you're gonna die. And they're like, yeah, you're calling Ahab crazy, but you just came up to us in the street, and you got crazy eyes, and really don't trust you. And Elijah's like, whatever, man, my name's Elijah. That's the name of a biblical prophet. You gotta trust me. And they're like, no, we don't. And he's like, oh, okay. So then the next morning they go to get on the boat, and Elijah accosts them again. And while he's talking to them, there's these dudes who are sneaking on board the ship in the fog. I'm sure that won't become important at any point in the future. But then they get on the boat, and the boat takes off, and it gets away from the shore. And it is only at this point that Ahab reveals himself. Ahab is a sketchy motherfucker. He's got this intricately carved fake leg made out of whale bone, but not out of the bone of the whale that took his leg. He didn't kill that whale. He killed a different whale. Ahab fucking hates whales. So he's got this whalebone leg, and he's muttering to himself all the time. He's real grouchy, hardly talks to anybody. He's got little holes drilled in the deck so he can stand up there with his whale leg without falling over. He's really giving bad vibes to the rest of the crew. Luckily, there are other people on the crew who are super chill. So Starbuck, for example. Starbuck is this... you know what has confused me about Starbuck? Two things. The mascot for Starbucks coffee is a woman, and Starbuck on the new Battlestar Galactica is also a woman. So I can't help but thinking of Starbuck as a woman. So in my version, Starbuck is a woman. At least until I forget and start using the wrong pronouns. So Starbuck She's like super chill. She is very competent, and she just doesn't want everybody to die. Then there's Stubb, who doesn't give a fuck if he dies and swears constantly. He's sort of like the Bruce Campbell of the ship. And then there's Flask. And Flask, he doesn't care about money, he doesn't care about power, he just fucking hates whales. He just wants to see as many whales as possible die. He's also tiny, he's like a hobbit. All three of these people have squires, basically. So Queequeg is Starbuck's squire. There's a dude named Tashdigo who is Stubb's squire, and then there's this huge guy named Dagu who is Flask's squire. Which is funny because Flask is so tiny, he stands on Dagu's shoulder and sort of like Master Blaster from Mad Max. By the way, all these chill people, gonna die. The only person who is not going to die is Ishmael, the inexperienced asshole who got Queequeg on the ship in the first place. So that's justice for you. Anyway, Ahab's stomping around the ship, being real unpleasant in the middle of the night, and it's keeping everybody awake because his whalebone leg is making a lot of fucking noise. So Stubb comes above decks and he's like, yo man, can you cut it out? We're trying to sleep. And Ahab's like, how about I cut you out? Fuck you. And Stubb's like, okay, fine. He goes down below decks, and he's pretty sore about it. He goes to sleep, and he has a dream about how Ahab is actually secretly a pyramid, and so it's not bad to get kicked by a pyramid, because, like, how many people get to say they had that experience? Then he wakes up in the morning, and he tells, like, Flask about it, but Flask doesn't care, because nobody wants to hear about your fucking dreams, Stubb. Anyway, the ship is going along pretty boring like. Like, the harpooneers are having a good time all the time, but that's because harpooneers know how to party. The crew, like the upper echelon, the officers, Flask, Stubb, Starbuck, Ahab, are sitting in stony silence every mealtime, just like kind of mad dogging each other. And Flask has to eat really fast because he's not allowed into the cabin until after the other two are like finished eating. But anyway, that's why everybody is so stoked when Ahab finally makes shit exciting. He comes out one day of his cabin, he walks to like the main mast, and he takes out a gold doubloon, which I guess is big, big money in sea times, and he nails it to the mast. And everyone's like, oh, what are you doing? I was going to use that to buy whores. And he's like, hey, only one person can use this gold doubloon to buy whores, and that's the person who first spots Moby Dick. And everyone's like, oh, shit! Because Moby Dick is like the evilest whale that's ever been on the seas. And, in fact, is the whale that ate Ahab's leg. So it turns out that this brilliant fucking ship that Ishmael picked is the one ship that he could have picked that is run by a crazy, revenge-motivated psychopath who does not care about making money in the incredibly lucrative whaling business, but only cares about fucking up a supposedly invincible and highly intelligent whale that ate his leg a while ago. So Starbuck is like, no. Remember how I really want people to live? And Ahab walks up to Starbuck and just does like a hypnotoad thing to her. It's like, womp, 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 you're gonna look for Moby Dick. And Starbuck's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I can't deal with your crazy eyes. And then later she's like, what the fuck? Why did I do that? But it's too late. Everybody already swore. They already took shots out of their harpoons and they're already partying all night. But the rest is a story for another time.